Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome to the video. Have a great one for you today. We're going to be doing a review over the Oris Big Crown Propilot Timer GMT. But before we get started, I'd like to remind you to please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and click the bell icon. That way you get notified every time I upload a video. Certainly appreciate it. Thank you. So yeah, let's jump into this. This particular Oris GMT model was released at 2019 Basel World, and let's take a look at it. For me, the main attraction of this watch, like most watches, most likely is going to be the case. But this case, to me, it was finely executed. It has a great industrial utilitarian look to it. Definitely a tool watch. By no means is it mistaken for anything else. The entire watch is brushed. Not one iota of polished stainless steel is on this. It's all brushed. Every link, center link, outer link, case, bezel, lugs, everything. So it's definitely a tool watch. This watch is made to be used. It is a GMT timer, so pilots or just general watch enthusiasts who travel a lot to have a GMT feature. So let's talk about the case dimensions. We have a 44 millimeter case, a 22 millimeter lug to lug, a 52 wingspan on this bad boy. It is 52 millimeters from lug to lug. Yes, that is a big lug to lug distance, but this is a substantial piece. It's a GMT, so and a pilot's watch. So pilot watches are always bigger than the average watch, the old Flieger style watches. And it is 14 millimeters thick from the back of the case to the top of the slightly domed sapphire crystal. So again, we have 44, 22, 52, and 14 millimeter dimensions. The great thing, my favorite feature about the case of this watch is you can see the knurling on the bezel, on the back of the case back. There you can see both the bezel, the case back, and the crown all have the same knurling. I think that's a great attention to detail, and I appreciate it when watchmakers do little things like that to just tie together the aesthetics and the theme of a watch. If you look on the sides, on the flanks, you can see here. Let me zoom in on this. You can see how the bezel kind of shrinks down into the case, almost a slight shroud on around the lugs, and I think this tapers down on the profile of the watch to reduce the sides of the watch so it doesn't look bigger than what it is. It wears smaller than what it is, and I think that's one of the reasons why. And it has a screw down crown and a 100-meter water resistance. Okay, so let's move on to the bracelet. The bracelet is a double-edged sword for me on this watch. While aesthetically, it looks great. It's, like I said, highly polished. The end links articulate amazingly. It just lies flat on itself, which means it just hugs your wrist. The issue I have with this watch on the bracelet is there are no micro adjustments at all. And I have a 7¼ inch wrist. So this watch on this factory OEM bracelet fits me snug. So I live in the Southwest, so it's not a matter if my hands and wrists swell during the day, it's when it happens. So that is a huge downside for me on this bracelet, because I really wanted to love it because of the clasp. It has the, being that this is a pilot's watch, the clasp, deployment clasp on the bracelet looks like a seatbelt lift on an airplane seatbelt. So that's just a cool little feature. But like I said, there's 0 micro adjusts on this watch, which really limit it. It fits me great, like I said, most of the time. It really hugs the wrist, as you can see, the bracelet. And I like, again, I have a 7 1/4 inch wrist. And even with the 52 millimeter lug to lug, it still fits fabulously on my wrist. Okay, we're gonna zoom in so we can talk about the dial. What most people who are not watch enthusiasts, if they just look at this watch, they're just gonna see a black dial with white numbers and move on. They're not even gonna really notice how the details and how actually beautiful it is. It sports a flat black dial with slightly raised white Arabics, a sword style handset, a small second subdial, and a red arrow GMT hand. The GMT timer has a 24-hour markers around the outer chapter ring of the dial. So the GMT hand rotates around the dial only one time for every 24 hours. So it's not like your regular handset where it goes around twice. And when I first got it, I didn't really pay attention to it. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, the GMT hand is barely moving. And then I realized, oh, it's a 24-hour chapter ring. So, and again, I'm in my kitchen, so I don't have, I can't totally sit in the dark here, but the lume on this watch is very good. It's Super Luminova BGW9, a nice blue glowing lume. Again, you know, it's not Seiko's Lumibright, but it looks very nice in the dark. So now we're going to go over the functionality of the watch. So again, like I mentioned earlier, it has a screw down crown. So unscrew, and the first pop out is the winder. I don't know if you can hear it wind. Pull out to the first position, and you can quick set the date, as you can see there. That's winding away from yourself, and if you turn it towards yourself, you change the GMT timer hand. And if you pull it all the way out, you can change the regular handset, which as well moves the GMT hand. Push it back in, screw it back down. The movement, I guess it depends on how you view it. It's considered an in-house movement, Oris caliber 748. However, that's based off the Sellita SW220-1. And I'm not a movement expert on the Sellitas, so I'm not sure if the base Sellita movement allows the functionality for a small second subdial, and if that's what Oris tweaked on it to do that, or how that works. I'm not exactly sure the full function of the Sellita movement, but it is based off the 220-1. It's automatic, 28 joule, and another, not a downer, but I guess a kind of an irk of mine. It only has a 38-hour power reserve. So, you know, if you're not wearing this constantly and winding it daily or have it on a winder, it'll run out of power fairly quick. As a date, GMT hand, and small seconds. My 3 likes about this watch is the dial layout and legibility. Like any watch that you really bond to and love, you can sit there at your desk or whatever you're doing and just stare at the dial and get lost in it. This is my first Oris and my first GMT. So I like the fact that it's a GMT and just the overall execution of the case. Like I said, I think Oris did an outstanding job on the execution of the case. And my dislikes, I kind of like I already hit upon the power reserve. I think it could be over 40 hours, or more. And the bracelet, I wish there was one more link, or at least, 3 to 5 micro adjusts. But it looks great on wrist, has great wrist presence. And especially on a wrist that's 7 inches or larger, it just with that 52 millimeter wing lug-to-lug wingspan, it really covers some real estate. And we'll take a real quick zoom in of the famous Oris red rotor and let you see the movement. But yeah, so there you have it. That's my review on the Oris Big Crown Propilot Timer GMT. I think it's a fabulous watch, and I will enjoy this watch for years, no doubt about that. So thank you for tuning in. And again, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I will see you on the next video. Thank you.